Hello, everybody. Before we get into the video, I just want to say sorry for not recording last week's predictions and reactions. We were both traveling that week and we weren't able to record anything. But we're now back on track. And really quickly, just want to remind you guys to use my code MyBio to get 30% off your premium picks with Trident DFS's sports betting picks. Uh, Other than that, let's get straight into our Week 9 NFL reactions. I'm here with CFB Deep Dives. And we're going to get started immediately with Houston Texans traveling to MetLife to take on the Jets. And this game was pretty good. The Jets were favored by -2. Final score, Jets win 21-13. We obviously aren't going to go over our picks because we didn't make any last week, but I wanted to go with the Jets here. First half, the Jets looked ass. Aaron Rodgers had about 35 passing yards, I think, and no touchdowns. And then to start the first half, we had start the second half. I mean, Malachi Corley did the Deshaun Jackson and dropped the ball. Dropped the ball before he got into the end zone. That was fucking very funny, and also I thought the fucking Jets were screwed after that, but Garrett Wilson showed the whole world that he can be a number one wide receiver, which he can. And we got a Devontae Adams touchdown. Rodgers looked pretty good in that second half, threw 3 touchdowns, and I think it was about 200 yards, or it was 180 yards, I think.
11.
Yeah.
Oh, in the second half, I don't know, but yeah, he had 211. So yeah, like 180 something.
Really impressed. Really impressed with Aaron Rodgers and their ability to kind of stop this big skid. This was a must-win game for them. Other than that, that's all I really have to say about the Jets. Texans, I wasn't impressed with their passing game yet again. And the run game pretty much was the only thing keeping them in it for the most part. There were some big passes to Tank Dell by C.J. Stroud, but it's mostly just Tank Dell and Stroud now is their whole passing offense. They have what I forgot.
Bobby Trees.
Yeah, they have Robert Woods, and they got that random dude.
John Mechie. I mean,
John.
Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, their passing attack is just not as dangerous as it was without Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs, now both hurt. Obviously, Diggs out
right.
for the
obviously.
year. But, yeah, I don't know what's going on with them. Not impressed with the Texans. After their win over the Bills, they haven't been very impressive to me. And that win wasn't even impressive in and of itself.
Well, I mean, their offensive line is, I mean, I was at a high school football game on Friday, and I swear to God that both high school teams had a better offensive line than the Houston Texans. C.J. Stroud was sacked 8 times. I think they showed like the pressure numbers. He was pressured on way more than 50% of his dropback. He was 11 of 30 passing. Like, he does not have time to throw. It's like he's just turning around and running away. Doesn't help that he's missing Nico Collins. Stephon Diggs is out for the year. They're just a complete mess on the offensive line. I mean, when your quarterback gets sacked 8 times, and not to mention your kicker, Fairbairn, who's supposed to be one of the best in the league, missed 2 field goals. What?
No, I've never thought he was good. This is just a fantasy thing. He just screwed me over in week one year, and I've never looked at him the same since. I just never trusted the guy.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And I've been vindicated thus far.
Well, yeah. I mean, because if he would hit those 2 field goals, the Texans would have been down 21-16 instead of down 21-10. So they kick the field goal, right? Try the onside kick, don't get it. I mean, it completely changes the game. You miss those field goals, low-scoring game.
Yes.
But yeah, the other thing for the Texans is like, yeah, even though the game was horrible and you lost it, it doesn't affect you in any way because the Colts lost. and every other team in your division lost.
Is
Or actually, the Titans won, but the Titans suck.
they're both
So
yeah, the Jags and the Titans are 2-7, so not much
it
competition.
didn't like really impact their ability to win the division. Um, but yeah, their offensive line is atrocious though, and I don't think that they have a prayer this season unless they get that offensive line playing better. I don't think an offensive line is something you can fix during the middle of the season,
No.
but just because, I mean,
Unless you're something like the
nobody.
Jets. Like I think the Jets are in the process of getting their O line to gel together better because it's kind of a new O line versus the
Mm,
Texans. It's like their O line that they've had, and I thought Laramie Tunsil was supposed to be like one of the best tackles in the NFL, but he's kind of been playing pretty bad.
yeah,
Like
he's washed.
yeah, Bong Ripper, Wash Bong
Yeah,
Ripper.
gas mask God. I will just say that for the Jets, like Garrett Wilson, like hard carried them in that game.
Dude,
Like
his
straight up,
second touchdown was so awesome. His first touchdown was great too. He had a one-hander in that one as well, or one-handed
yeah,
catch.
like that was all just like pure elite talent. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm pretty sure his second touchdown was on third down or
It
something,
was
wasn't it?
3rd and 19, I think, or 3rd and 15. It was a really. I remember watching that and being like, "Oh shit, they're taking a shot," and seeing Garrett go up and grab that with one hand and bring it in and just even make that look like it could be a catch is. But he's got to be the one of the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL right now. He honestly should
Yeah,
should be
without
in the
question.
conversation if he wasn't on, the Jets with Zach Wilson for 2 years. He would definitely be in that top 10 conversation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like clearly getting Devontae Adams on the team has helped him out because
Now, yeah,
now they
now
don't
he's
just
not just
double
like
him.
just
And
try and take him
another
away.
thing, another thing about like, just that whole situation, like people were like, "Oh, well, I don't know how Garrett Wilson's gonna like receive this. Like how is he gonna react to Devontae being on the team? Is he gonna like get mad and quit on the team?" I mean, the guy played at Ohio State. He had Smith and Jigba and Olave on his team. You know, he knows how
Yeah,
to play with other receivers. He's not like just some guy that needs to be like getting all the targets. Like he knows how to play with other great receivers. Um,
yeah.
and I just think he's a elite competitor where he's not just gonna like try.
No, he's
But
he's
yeah,
not a diva either. He's definitely not
hmm
like a Stephon Diggs who's not playing right now, but somebody like that who's gonna freak out if they don't get their targets.
yeah, um, yeah. That's really all I got to say about this game. Like Garrett Wilson hard carried the Jets. I mean that
Agreed.
touchdown, like you said, on 3rd and 19,
Yeah, it was
and he makes
crazy.
that incredible play. Um, the Texans' offensive line literally could not.
There's
I
Hassan
mean,
Reddick. They finally got that Hassan Reddick and Jeff Ulbrich bump, dude. It just took like 3 weeks. It was just like a big delay. They got the Hassan Reddick.
yeah,
Hassan Reddick had a great game, and Jeff Ulbrich got his first win. This was
right.
like I said earlier, this was their must-win game. They won it. We're gonna move on to Dallas taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta was favored by 2.5 points. Atlanta won 27-21. Um, this game really wasn't that close. Uh, they got, Dak got hurt. Uh, really, the only highlight I'd say for the Cowboys in this game was um, that Rico Dowdle touchdown. Um, that really was impressive to me. Dowdle freaking bobbling the ball. But, I mean, we've talked about this. I think the Cowboys are done. And
They're cooked. They're
they're,
cooked.
yeah. I mean, I think you could. What did you see the video on the sideline where Dak was saying this team sucks? Basically, like I think
Yeah.
I think they're giving up. Falcons obviously are good. They're first in the NFC South. Um, they're, I mean, unless the Bucks have a big turnaround and they make a big move, because Bucks are kind of decimated right now. I think the Falcons should make the playoffs, winning the NFC South.
Oh yeah.
Really like Kirk Cousins, and the whole offense is just, all these pieces surrounding Kirk are great. Bijan had a good game. Um, Drake London got hurt. He did. Did you see he did like the headstand celebration after his touchdown too, like Amon Ra did?
Hmm.
That was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
That was
But
yeah. That was sick.
but honestly, I don't really have much to say about this game besides that. Ray Ray McLeod had a cool touchdown. So did Darnell Mooney. I mean, Kirk was just cooking today. Uh, for, and Dak and CD both got hurt. So
Yeah, the Cowboys are absolutely cooked, and it was like you did hear like Jerry Jones talking about like we got some trades in the mail or something. Like he just has no idea what he's doing. And like,
no,
and he said something after game two, talking about like I want to apologize to the fans. It's like, dude, that, I just yeah, like I get it. You gotta like acknowledge your fans, but for some reason when I heard that, I was just like, all this guy cares about is people giving him money
uh huh,
or the attention. Like, it's really just like a show to him. You know what I mean? Like he's not serious. Like the Cowboys are just a wholly like unserious football franchise. And I would never want to play for Jerry Jones, especially with the whole like letting fans come in to the training facility and like basically you're just like a little zoo animal, and the
uh
fans
huh.
are just. I would never want to play for Jerry Jones. I would never want to be a coach for them, which is like Cowboy fans think they're getting Bill Belichick. Yeah, right. Bill Belichick would never sign up for that. Um, and especially with the fact that, and I know they have a lot of injuries, but they're just a joke of a franchise. Jerry Jones is not serious about winning, and Dak Prescott sucks. And that's really all I have to say. They're done. The Cowboys are cooked. It's over.
Yeah, I think this is going to be like their 2020 season, where they just kind of put up a fight for the first couple weeks and then they just get cooked. Um,
They're
Buff-
done. They are one like lucky win against the Steelers. That could have gone either way.
uh
That
huh.
they're one lucky win from being 2-7 or 2-6 or whatever it is, and having the same record as the Panthers and the Saints and the
Giants,
Titans and the
Browns.
Patriots and all the just god awful teams in the league. That's the only thing separating them
Yeah.
is that one win over Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, and the Dolphins are 2-7. Let's move on to the Dolphins and Bills.
They suck.
Uh, Buffalo favored by 6 points. They won by 3. Tyler Bass 61-yard field goal for the win. That was kind of Sean McDermott maybe took himself off the FBI's for most wanted list for trusting Tyler Bass in that situation because I mean
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of good coaching move to trust your kicker there, and your kicker, hits a 61-yarder. That's going to bring his confidence up a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
he's Bills. I mean, Josh Allen played great. He had a pick, but it shouldn't have been a pick. That was a Keon Coleman fumble, IMO, that just ended up in Jalen Ramsey's hands. Uh, Other than that, Josh Allen had 3 passing touchdowns, 235 yards. Tua went game managing mode. Just check down passes, tons of check down passes. Uh, Devon Achan was a lot of their offense today. I mean, he had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. But I mean, to me, I feel like the Dolphins are cooked because you're 0-2 against the Bills. I don't see any way to come back, and you're 2-6. Um,
Yeah, they're behind the Jets in the standings too by half a game.
yeah, and I see the Jets are at least on a upward trajectory now, and the Dolphins are still just in the mud with Tua back. So
Yeah, so the Dolphins really needed this game to get back into the division race. They didn't get it. Tua came back. It feels like the Dolphins are cooked. They're 2-6, and basically, yeah, the the Bills have won the AFC East. It's over. The division race is it's finished. It's done. It's over. No other team in their division has more than 2 wins. Or actually, the Jets are 3-6. But yeah, Buffalo wraps up the division, um, and the Dolphins. I mean, they're supposed to be like 6-2 going into November, into the cold months because they're not really like a cold weather team, famously. And yeah, I think it's over for the Dolphins this season. Um, and the Bills keep rolling on. John McDermott no longer on the FBI's most wanted list. We have tabled our investigation into Sean McDermott. We're no longer in pursuit of him. We have now dedicated our efforts to Matt Eberflus, who remains at large and is currently taking over the #1 spot
Armed
in
and
the most
dangerous.
wanted list. He is considered armed and very dangerous for the career of any player that is unlucky enough to be under his tutelage. So, yeah, Sean McDermott, you have saved your ass for now. We will revisit this investigation in January in the playoffs, but for now, you're off the hook, McDermott.
Let's go move on to Las Vegas. Raiders traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Bengals were favored by 7. Since he won in a big blowout, 41-24. All I really have to say about this
Mm-hmm.
game is Joe Burrow 5 touchdowns, and he went off without needing T Higgins or Jamar Chase. Obviously, Jamar Chase was in the game, but didn't really do much. And um, really what got it done was Chase Brown and his tight ends, and obviously
Yeah.
Andre Yosevas. But that's all I have to say about the Bengals and the Raiders. I don't have jack shit to say besides we saw Desmond Ritter play and throw a touchdown, but
Mm-hmm.
Raiders are cooked.
Yeah, the Raiders are beyond cooked. They fired Luke Getsy after the game, offensive coordinator. This was the guy that Matt Eberflus had last year, and then they got rid of Justin Fields because he wasn't good, supposedly. Well, it turns out that Luke Getsy isn't very good at his job, and neither is Shane Waldron. But we're talking about the Bengals game here. So, but yeah, Joe Burrow 5 touchdowns, only sacked once. Um, Joe Burrow is having an incredible season, at least statistically. Bengals are now 4-5. Um, they're currently the ninth seed, so they're tied with the Colts at a 4-5 record, but the Colts have the tiebreaker over them based on win rate in conference games. The Colts are 3-3 against AFC teams. The Bengals are 2-3 against AFC teams. So the Bengals could very easily get themselves right back to the playoff hunt. The division is probably out of reach for them, although they still do have a lot more games against the Steelers and Ravens. I think right. They've already played the Ravens once, but I don't think
Yeah,
they've
they're gonna
played the
play the
Steelers at all.
Ravens. They're gonna play the Ravens soon. They played the Browns once and beat them. Um, Steelers, yeah, they haven't played them yet.
Hmm.
But I mean, honestly, if something happens to Derrick Henry, the Raven season is going to be in jeopardy. We'll get to that when we talk about the Ravens. But uh,
Yeah, basically just for this one, I don't know. Philly or Cincy really needed that game badly, and they got it. And the Raiders are cooked. Tank time. They are second last place in the or the AFC, and yeah, they're done. It's over.
let's move on to Chargers traveling to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Chargers were favored by 1.5 points. Chargers won 27-10. Uh, as a Browns fan, I had my hopes up for this game. Uh, with Jameis coming back, after that big win over the Ravens 2 weeks ago. We saw the other side of Jameis where he throws a bunch of picks. Obviously, he had a lot of turnover worthy plays against the Ravens, but uh, yeah, I guess you got to take the good with the bad with Jameis, and I still like Jameis. This is just going to happen. And um,
The 3 interception games.
Yeah, those will happen with Jameis. He's either going to have 3 touchdowns or 3 interceptions. Um, Still would rather have him starting over Deshaun Watson. I can confidently say that now, seeing the worst Jameis has
Oh,
to give us and the best that he can give
absolutely.
us. Um, he can actually throw the ball accurately 20 yards downfield. Um,
Right.
Deshaun can't fucking do that anymore. Um,
Deshaun can't even get a pass off, dude.
yeah,
He
I
can't
mean,
even he can't even attempt a pass.
he just fucking sits there, takes a step back, looks around, tries to scramble, gets sacked. Uh,
Yeah.
Jameis, somehow slower quarterback, but is able to get the ball out quicker. Uh, that's all I have to say
I
about
don't know if he's
Cleveland.
slower.
Uh, Chargers, on the other hand, I mean, Quentin Johnston looked like a beast. Lad McConkey, certified beast. J.K. Dobbins, Ohio State legend. All of them looked awesome. Uh,
Two
Browns de-
tutties.
Browns defense was cooked. I mean, I think that Johnston touchdown was that on like 3rd and 20 or something. It was something insane. Um, yeah, I mean, the Chargers are on a roll here. I could totally see them locking up a playoff spot. Uh, really like Harbaugh and how he's turned this team around so far this year. That's all I got to say about this game, though.
Yeah. I mean, like the Chargers are the best defense in the league, I think, at least statistically, at least in terms of like points allowed, you know.
Yeah,
Uh Browns it's just like a really bad matchup for the Browns because Jameis is going to throw a lot of interceptions. He's going to try to like force the ball into tight windows and I mean that just plays right into the Chargers' hands there. Um, yeah, not a lot to say. The Chargers are good, the Browns are bad, and that's really it.
let's move on. Let's move on to the New England Patriots taking on the Tennessee Titans. Uh, Tennessee was favored by 3.5 points this game, which is actually kind of surprising to me. Um, but
Yeah,
they did win, but not by 3.5. They won by 3 in overtime with a field goal. Um, I was really honestly impressed. Oh yeah, sorry. Final score 20-17. Tennessee wins. Um, I was really impressed with Drake May on that last play of regulation. Really,
yeah,
really thought that was a crazy play from a rookie, especially. I mean, he's just trying to make time, finds a guy last second as he's getting sacked, and my only complaint was maybe should they have gone for 2 there when you have the chance to just win outright, instead of taking your risks in overtime and with the overtime rules being how they are. Um,
hmm
yeah, that's. I mean, on one hand, you got a rookie quarterback who can make things happen. On the other hand, he's a rookie quarterback. Do you want to put him in overtime this early on in your career? But moving on to Tennessee, I don't really have a lot to say. Mason Rudolph is Mason Rudolph. He's just kind of like a game management type of guy. He's the exact opposite of Will Levis. Will Levis is going to, ooh, even when he's doing something bad, he's going to make something crazy happen. Um,
yeah,
Mason Rudolph is just like vanilla ice cream. Um,
hmm
that's all I really have to say. I mean, Titans have a great defense. I like their defense, all the pieces on defense. And Tony Pollard's a great running back. But
Well, anybody looks like a great running back against the Patriots defense. Their run defense is atrocious.
yeah. But yeah, that's all I got to say about those two teams. Kind of, I mean, these are teams that are in the Tankathon Bowl right now, fighting for the number 1 spot. So there's not
All
really
right.
much you can say about them that has an impact on the season other than, are they really trying to tank or not?
Yeah. No, I mean, really, all I have to say about this game is I totally agree with you. You get down there, you tie it up at the end of the game. Why are you playing for overtime? You're 3 yards away. Make a play. Just do it.
Yeah,
Just go for it. Why would you want to have a whole nother 10-minute period of I don't get it. Because literally the only reason I can think is that people will criticize you more for not getting that than they will for losing in overtime because then they'll just blame the rules, the format. But
yeah.
yeah, just go for it. Just go for it. It's wasn't it as time expired?
There was 0 seconds left on the clock when they scored the touchdown. So
Yeah,
basically, if they got that,
just go for it.
yeah,
You have the momentum right there. You have the energy. Your players have all the adrenaline. Just go for it.
yeah, and I figure, I mean,
Why?
you have Drake May who can make things happen with his legs. You have Ramondre. I I I find it hard to believe there's not a great play package they can dial up for a 2 point conversion. Uh,
Hmm.
I mean, former Titans head coach Vrabel, pretty famous for, when it's a extra point to tie, 2 point conversion to win it. He would always go for that 2 point conversion on the road. Um,
Yeah.
and
Vrabel
Vrabel would have gone for it
Vrabel
there.
would have done. Right.
Jared Mayo didn't.
Vrabel would have gone for it.
Honestly, speaking about Vrabel, he should coach the freaking Patriots. I don't know why they brought Jared Mayo. Um, I mean, Vrabel's a former Patriot himself from that Belichick coaching tree, and I think he's a great coach. Sucks they fired him. They kind of fired him just because they wanted to go in a new direction. It wasn't like he was a bad coach or anything. Um,
No, did you hear why they fired him?
no.
Because the owner, the woman who owns the Titans said he was like too intimidating or too manly or something.
Oh my gosh. Well, that I
Let me
mean,
look it
isn't
up
that
here.
what you want in a football coach, right? Like that makes no sense to me. But
Let's see. Mike Vrabel too large and intimidating for NFL. Oh wait, no, no, no. Okay, sorry. Uh, that's why he wasn't hired as the head coach
what?
because he was too intimidating.
That is so dumb. I I think I
That's why
think the
he wasn't
Patriots
hired
would
after he got fired.
do well to just pick him up. I mean,
Well, they had like a under the table agreement with Gerard Mayo that he would be the guy to follow up Belichick, I guess.
oh yeah, last year, yeah.
Yeah. Like even like when they hired him, I think like 3, 4 years ago or whenever it was,
It,
like there was like an unspoken agreement that he would be Belichick's replacement as a head coach. Like Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft is one of the most overrated owners in the league, by the way. Um, that's one guy I've never really liked. Robert Kraft, they talk like this all the time, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, the best owner, right?"
yeah.
He's he's not the best owner. I just like
I mean, he
I just
had Belichick and Brady carrying his legacy for 20 years, so
right,
and
yeah.
basically Belichick was just doing all the GM duties. So what did Kraft do? Just sign
Hmm.
off on everything. That's all he really did. Uh,
Okay, Bill, sounds good to me.
then he'd go get a massage.
Yeah,
Allegedly,
yeah. Then he would just go down to like Miami and hit up a rub and tug.
allegedly get a happy ending to his massage.
Honestly, Bill Belichick was probably just like, you know what? Let's send Kraft down to Miami, hit up his favorite massage parlor, so we can just focus on football here. And then when he got exposed for that, then he probably started like meddling more in the team's business, and then that's when things started going downhill.
Yeah.
You know,
Let's
as soon as he got exposed for that, then it was just like, well, now he has to spend more time up in New England with the team.
Now he has to act like he's an actual owner and not just a rich guy who owns the team. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was literally exposed in 2019.
And then speaking of Titans, that was when they lost, right, in the wild card round of the Titans. And Vrabel, well,
that's when it went south.
Yeah.
Like the raid happened in July of 2018. The raid on this South Florida massage parlor. They won the Super Bowl after that, that season, and then from
It was cooked.
there on out, it was just all downhill for the Patriots.
Yeah.
After that got exposed.
Uh, let's. You want to move on to
But yeah, that's it.
Washington, New York?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
cool. Let's do
Uh,
that.
so Washington was favored by 4 points traveling to MetLife. They won by 5, 27-22. Uh, honestly, pretty impressive win for the Commanders to finally beat the Giants when they have when the Giants actually have a kicker available, because that was my big asterisk on that win earlier on in the season was
Hmm.
Dable was an idiot for not giving them a kicker. He started off with one who was questionable, and then he hurt himself in the warm ups. But uh, what I have to say about the Giants is Daniel Jones looked good. Uh, had two passing touchdowns, one rushing touchdown. This loss was not on Daniel Jones. I cannot stress that enough. Uh, but Washington, obviously, Jaden Daniels, he is offensive rookie of the year in my eyes. I don't know anybody who else is better for rookie wise. Um,
Oh yeah, he definitely is.
he didn't even have that crazy of a game in terms of stats. I mean, he had 209 yards and two touchdowns, but like they did not need him to have like a 300-yard game or multiple rushing touchdowns or anything like that. This game was uh, this was kind of like Brian Quinn is kind of taking over, as a coach and getting into his own here.
Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn. Why did I say Brian Quinn? I was thinking of Dable. Yeah, but really impressed with the
Yeah, Dan Quinn's
Commanders.
a good coach.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly remember there was that whole plot line. Are the Cowboys going to fire McCarthy and hire Dan Quinn to keep him on? But
They probably should have.
yeah, I mean, seriously, looking at what the Cowboys are right now, like we talked about earlier, Cowboys are in the mud, and the Commanders are
Yeah.
first in the division at 7-2. Um, I, I think. I mean, I did not expect that from the Commanders this year. That was super. This is super impressive to me. Our guy Terry McLaurin finally has a quarterback. He had the two receiving touchdowns that
Thank
I
God.
mentioned earlier. Um, but honestly, what was crazy was their rushing game was pretty decent without Brian Robinson Jr., who was questionable going in and then was ruled out early on in the day. Um, I mean, they had what's his name? Chris Rodriguez Jr., um, who had 52 yards, 11 carries, and then Eckler had the
Yeah, it,
touchdown.
it was a committee. It was a committee approach, but yeah, I mean, bottom line, the Commanders are a good team. The Giants are a bad team. Uh, that's really it. I mean, the Giants suck. Daniel Jones is only sacked two times, even though their offensive line is pretty awful now, but they're just not a very good team. And the Commanders are a good team. Dan Quinn, good coach. I bet the Cowboys wish they still had him. Their team has completely fallen off a cliff since he left. Um, and oh yeah, by the way, the Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator for the Commanders, wanted to be the offensive coordinator for the Bears. He wanted to follow Caleb Williams to Chicago, and the Bears, Matt Eber terrorist, was like, "No, we want Waldron. We want
Uh,
Waldron because of his incredible track record of success
what the guy who
in
ruined
Seattle."
Jackson Smith and Jigba's rookie year and it allows
Yeah.
Travis Homer and Gerald Everett to be in the NFL in the year 2024. That guy.
Yeah, I mean, look, Washington is not Washington anymore. They have a new owner. They don't have that moron Dan
Zach, yeah,
Snyder or Daniel
Snyder.
Snyder. They have whatever his name is, Josh Harris or whatever. I think he also owns the 76ers too.
Yeah,
Um, so they have a real owner now as opposed to just some moron with a bunch of money. Um,
yeah.
yeah, the Commanders are good.
It's getting hard to wash the stink off the team, but it's happening. I mean, they still kind of have that aura, even though, I mean, if you look at what's going on this year, that this is a completely different team now that they've sold it. But I think some people unconsciously just
Yeah,
still believe Snyder is the is the owner. um,
right. No, he's not there anymore. Otherwise, it would have been him over Tepper. Him and Tepper is like the two most wanted owners.
yeah.
But he's gone, and Tepper. Well, Tepper. Let's be real. Tepper's gonna be around for 30 years. But um, yeah, I mean, yeah, really not a whole lot to say about this game.
Yeah.
Commanders good, Giants bad.
All right. Yeah. Let's move on to another game that had a surprising outcome, but we probably won't have tons to say. New Orleans versus Carolina. Uh, New Orleans favored by 7.5. Carolina wins 23-22. I was really. I know we didn't make picks this week, but I was really going to go with the Saints here, thinking that they get a big bump from Derek Carr. Uh, Turns out they didn't, and Derek Carr murdered Chris Olave in the first fucking half.
Yeah,
I mean,
Harris.
also, it's partially on him, partially not. I forgot who the defender's name was, but that ball went sailing over Olave's head, and he just decided to RKO him and knock Olave out cold. What the hell?
Yeah,
Feel really bad for Olave that he's got to be on this trash team. Um, Saints are in the tanking conversation. Uh, that's really all I have to say about the Saints. And then the Panthers, Bryce Young. I mean, this is a feel good moment for Bryce Young because they benched him and he's coming back, gets a win. He had one touchdown. It was to I think it was Xavier Legette, right? One of my guys. And then
hmm
Chuba Hubbard had two touchdowns, doing what he does without. Obviously, they don't have Jonathan Brooks back. Which do they even need him at this point? Do they want to waste him on this
Well,
year?
yeah.
Well, I mean, do they just want to risk him getting hurt in a year that they're obviously just tanking? Because although they
Well,
moved to two
I
and
don't think
seven,
so.
they are still in the running for that number one overall pick.
I don't think so because he was supposed to miss like what 4 games and it's been 9. So yeah, I don't know if they're gonna bring him back.
They said he's supposed to come back next week, but I mean, he's probably not going to get a whole lot of playing time, to be honest. But yeah, that's all I got to say about the Panthers. Just
Yeah, I mean, I would have taken the Panthers to cover that 7.5 because the Saints are a bad team, and we don't trust bad teams with 7.5 points on the road. We just don't. Even against a
yeah,
horrifically bad team like the Panthers, the Saints are not a team that you can trust with 7.5 points. Even though they're getting Derek Carr back, whatever. I don't care. You just take a home dog with 7.5 points most of the time. Especially when they're again the Panthers are a bad team, but so are the Saints. I'm not going to trust the Saints to cover 7.5 points because bad teams lose. That's what they do, and that's what the Saints did. I don't think I would have picked the Panthers to win the game outright, but I would have picked them
to
to
cover.
cover the spread and lose by at least 7
Yeah, that
or
that is a
less.
very large
Um,
spread for such a bad team. I don't know what Vegas was doing there.
yeah, I mean they just think Bryce Young can't play football at the NFL level, which I don't think he really can either. But I mean,
He can against the Saints defense. Looks like. Yeah, well, although he got cooked by them in week one, so
yeah, yeah.
I
I mean, listen, the Saints outgained the Panthers 427 to 246. The Panthers had a turnover. The Saints had zero turnovers. The Saints had 25 first downs. The Panthers had 15. The Saints had 34 minutes of possession to the Panthers 26. By every like objective measure, the Saints should have won this game, but they did have 10 penalties for 109 yards.
yeah
Um, they just couldn't. I mean, like the Panthers, the Saints ran for 197 yards for 4.8 yards a carry. Panthers ran 80 yards for 3.5 yards a carry. By any objective measure, either the Saints had 230 yards passing, 166 passing yards, but statistically, the Saints dominated this game, and they still even won the turnover battle,
yeah
and they still found a way to lose this game. That's why Dennis Allen got fired.
Yep, ladies and gentlemen,
Dennis
we
Allen,
got him. He's in
we got him.
custody.
We got him. We had him on the most wanted list. We wanted this guy out of there. Um, and he's gone. He's one of the worst coaches in the league. And now the long national nightmare in New Orleans is over.
Yes.
Dennis Allen has been fired, folks. I mean, you lose a game like that where you have 25 first downs to the other team's 15. Um, you literally dominate them in literally every facet of the game. There's not a single stat that I'm looking at here where the Panthers outperform the thing, and you still lose. So
Yeah, that is just a sign of just coaching is cooked, basically. I mean, did you see what Michael Thomas had to say on like Derek Carr, Dennis Allen, Olave? He was just talking crazy about everything. Basically,
yeah, I did see things about he basically said like he wants to like fight Derek Carr.
yeah. Well, so he said like, um, they fired all the coaches last year to cover up Derek Carr's flaws, and he's still doing the exact same thing he did last year. Just panicking. He says he panics and throws the ball. Get the F out of here. He's so ass. Derek Carr, for you, I told y'all. I'm reading his tweets. That year, his buddy went first team All Pro. Yeah, so he's basically just hating on Michael Thomas and, he's hating on Derek Carr. Michael Thomas is what I meant to say. To me, I liked Derek Carr on the Raiders, but I never thought he was the answer for the Saints, and I didn't like the Saints going out and getting him. And now it seems to me that we have the Panthers and the Saints in the same position where they're just trying to move on and get another quarterback, because I don't think Panthers are going to stick with Bryce Young after benching him.
Derek Carr is not the answer. Did you see this tweet? And I'm looking at Michael Thomas's Twitter, and he retweeted it. But it says it's from ML Football. It says Dennis Allen is the first coach in NFL history to be fired by two different teams, both times with the same starting quarterback, and it was Derek Carr both times.
Oh my gosh!
I keep forgetting that Dennis Allen was the head coach of the Raiders from 2012 to 2014. Like for some reason that is like a blank spot in my mind. Like that Dennis Allen coached the Raiders. I have no memory of that at all. I thought Jack Del Rio was their head coach back then.
He's just a very forgettable guy. I mean, no offense to you, Dennis Allen, but he's like him and Zach Taylor are just like the coaches that like are not recognizable at all. Like you look at like almost any other coach, like dude, Ron Rivera, I'd recognize him if I ran into him in public. If I ran into Dennis Allen, just whatever on the train or at Costco or something, I don't think I'd recognize him. I'm having trouble picturing Dennis Allen in my head right now, and I just saw like a picture of him when he got fired. So,
right.
I mean,
if he walked into my place right now, I wouldn't even. I'd be like, "Who are you, buddy?" Like, I'm NFL head coach Dennis Allen. Like, don't you mean former NFL head coach Dennis Allen?
Don't you mean current prisoner in Guantanamo Bay, Dennis Allen?
Don't you mean inmate 64729?
Yeah,
I'm calling the police.
The Saints, honestly, they just cut their losses at this point, and they just said, we're done with Dennis Allen. This experiment's over. They need to cut their losses and get rid of Derek Carr. I'm sure there'd be some team stupid enough to take a chance on him. I don't have a problem with him being a backup, but I don't think or a bridge quarterback. If you're looking for a bridge quarterback, just a quarterback for a year.
Yeah, he will be next year the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts.
I could totally see that, but he should never be looked at
what the Colts do.
as a as this guy's going to lead us to the playoffs and we're going to win a Super Bowl. He can't be looked at like that anymore. I mean,
No.
there's no
He-
track record. He's not like he basically got the Kirk Cousins contract, right? Like he got a ton of money.
I was gonna say he's a poor man's Kirk Cousins, and maybe not even poor man.
I don't even think he's
He's a homeless man's Kirk Cousins.
like Kirk. Look at where the Falcons are right now with Kirk. They're first in the division, same division as the
Yeah.
Saints. Add you, the Saints are just a terribly run franchise. They have all this freaking cap problems now too. I mean, who knows what the hell's gonna happen? They would have been better if they just stuck with Jameis, but that's neither here nor there.
The thing is, like the Saints, for as long as I've been watching football, they've been good. I do remember when I was a little kid, they were like awful, and probably like in like Dad's era, he could probably remember more about like because I'm pretty sure from like from like the 60s all the way up through like the 90s, the Saints were they were called the Aints, right? They were like the worst franchise in the league every single year. They had Archie, like if you watch like Archie Manning highlights when he was a quarterback for the Saints, he was like basically like whatever CJ Stroud's doing with Houston right now. Like he gets the snap and he just runs for his life and makes plays.
He's like Trevor, right? Isn't he just like a good quarterback on a bad team? Like
like Archie Manning. Yeah, every one of his highlights, he's like running for his life and like somehow like completes a pass. That's what the Saints were for like 40 years until they got Drew Brees and Sean Payton in 05 or 06 or whatever it was, and they've been pretty much good for most of the past 20 years. Yeah, up until 2020 or after 2020, the 2020 season.
Yeah,
and then now they're a bottom 5 franchise in the league. They're the Aints again. They're terrible.
Yeah. That's really all we got right on this game. I know we said we wouldn't talk a little bit, and then we just started talking about Derek Carr and all that.
Well, I mean, it's a big deal when number one, one of the top guys on our FBI's most wanted list gets fired.
That is very true. I mean, we
do have to talk about that.
Yeah, we officially got him. That was all us, by the way, if you're wondering.
He's been brought to justice. The bad man can't hurt you anymore, Olave.
Olave, you're going to get traded to the Broncos, okay? You're going to be with Sean Payton again. You and Michael Thomas.
That would be incredible.
They need it.
Or the Chargers. I would love to see Olave on the Chargers.
Yeah, just let him be a number one somewhere. Because he can be a number one on the Saints. It's just not going to be worth it for him because Derek Carr throws hospital passes like it's nobody's business.
It would be even, get Derek Carr.
He does
Michael
the
Thomas
Heineke
is 100% right. Yeah.
Just tries and kills him. Let's go move on to speaking of the Broncos and Sean Payton. Broncos took on the Ravens. The Ravens were favored by 9.5 points in Baltimore. They won by 31 points. Baltimore won 41-10. This was just a bad game for any Broncos fans because you saw the Philly special. I think that was in the second quarter. But yeah, Cortland Sutton makes a pass to Bo Nix for a touchdown. It was a pretty cool play. And other than that, their offense doesn't have a ton of success. Bo Nix threw an interception. I will say Cortland Sutton's been having a pretty good stretch of games, I think, for past 3 weeks. He had 122 yards this game. Obviously, they were down, so they're just throwing it a ton. But the real big story of the game was the Broncos' defense kind of not looking like that number one defense they've been for the whole year, basically. I really think a big part of it was Derrick Henry being able to just smoke them on the ground. He averaged 4.6 yards a carry, got 106 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Lamar was able to
even those numbers are...
No, I mean it wasn't.
Even those numbers are different
Yeah,
because they were up they were up 38-10 going into the fourth quarter.
he would have been able to get like 200 yards if this game was somewhat close.
Yeah,
Honestly,
right.
like they really didn't even need to run him. They kind of had some Justice Hill and uh, in the later part of the game, but I mean Zay Flowers had a crazy game too. Um, Really, all I have to say is the Ravens are who they say they are. Um, they basically just run the ball with Derrick Henry, and if that doesn't work, they can just get Zay Flowers open in the flats, and uh, yeah, they are able to just cook teams like that. Um, what I have to say about Derrick Henry is he's at 1,000 yards rushing already. And this was week 9. He's at 1,000 yards rushing. He could very possibly repeat for 2,000. Not repeat, but get a second 2,000 yard season, which is pretty crazy. I don't think a running back has done that.
He's got to do it in 16 games though, or else it doesn't count.
Yeah, but I mean, he's at a
But still,
thousand right now. What's he got to get? Like he's just got to have like a 200 yard game and then just average like 80 yards a carry for the next 6 games. Then he should be he should be close enough, right?
yeah,
So it's very possible we see Derrick Henry get another 2,000 yard season, which I mean, I like I said, I don't think any other running back has had multiple 2,000 yard seasons. I know, what was it? Chris Johnson had a 2,000 yard season. OJ,
yeah.
right? Didn't OJ have one?
Adrian Peterson had one.
Oh, Adrian Peterson. Okay.
Yeah, OJ had one. Eric Dickerson is the one that has the record for it. I think Jamal Lewis had one. So it was Derrick Henry in 2020, Adrian Peterson in 2012, Chris Johnson in 2009, Jamal Lewis in 03, Terrell Davis in 98, Barry Sanders in 97, Eric Dickerson, who set the record with 21:05 in 1984, and then OJ was the first to do it in 1973. Although OJ did it in a 14-game season, all the other guys did it in
16 games.
16 games.
That is insane.
Which, yeah.
Guy's a killer.
Yeah, OJ averaged 6 yards a carry that year.
That's wild.
So Eric Dickerson got 2,105 yards in 1984. I remember in 2012, Adrian Peterson finished with 2,097. So he was
Oh wow.
8 yards. He was 8 yards short of the record. Which
How could you not just feed him carries, dude? It's the same thing with Cooper Kupp,
Yeah.
dude. When Cooper Kupp was getting close to getting 2,000 yards, and they weren't feeding him the ball. Like if I'm that coach, dude, every pass is going to, or every run is going to, that running back or pass.
Yeah, I just don't get it. I remember watching that game thinking like, okay, because I think it was a Monday Night Football game for the Vikings when Adrian Peterson was on the Vikings. Because I know actually that same season, 2012, was the year that Calvin Johnson was going for 2,000 yards receiving, and he finished with like 1964.
Yeah.
And like me and my friends went to the Bears-Lions game because it was like the end of the season. The Bears were like on the verge of making the playoffs, and they, so it was the last game of the season, and we're up in Detroit watching the game, and like the Bears won, but we were really just like paying attention to Calvin Johnson. And yeah, he came up 36 yards short, and then Adrian Peterson came up 8 yards short, or I guess 9 yards short.
Oosh. What was Cooper Kupp, dude? Did Cooper Kupp even break Megatron's record, or didn't they sit him, I think, for a game?
Let's see.
I feel like they did,
So,
but I don't remember.
Yeah, he had 1947, and Calvin Johnson had 1964.
Okay, so he didn't even. I think he sat the second half of the last game of the season. Like,
Yeah, let's see here.
that's just from memory. I don't have any, fact on that, but
Yeah, so well, I mean, they lost to San Francisco in that last game of the season. He had 7 catches for 118 yards. Still needed 53, so he needed 171 to break the record in that game. Um, does it say what percentage of the snaps that he played? I don't know. Whatever. But yeah, he came up just short though.
Yeah. Uh,
But yeah, back to the Ravens. Yeah, if you know if Derrick Henry gets another 2,000 yard season, then the reward will be that Lamar Jackson will win the MVP. Um, Boy, it would really be a shame if the Ravens can't go into the playoffs and turn this into a Super Bowl, third straight
hmm.
or third MVP season for Lamar.
Yeah, I
Boy,
wonder.
you'd really just hate to see that.
I really think Josh deserves it. Um, all the people last year basically were talking about, oh, well, Josh has all the better stats, but oh, Lamar's playing better. So I guess Lamar deserves it because what? He's playing better. Now Josh has better stats and he's playing better than Lamar, and Lamar still deserves it. I don't get it. It just makes no sense to me. I mean, if we're looking at Josh's interceptions, he has 2 interceptions. He really should only even have he should only have 1 interception because, like I said earlier, that that INT he had last week was totally on Keon Coleman. I mean, he hits Keon Coleman in the hands and he just bobbles it and it just ends up in Jalen Ramsey's hands. I
Hmm.
I will be mad if Lamar gets another undeserving MVP. I don't even think he earned last year's MVP. I thought Josh should have gotten it. But
Well, Lamar's numbers are very good, but yeah, his numbers are definitely better than Josh Allen's. But I mean, we're talking about a guy who I just think like the most Lamar play ever was I can't remember who they were playing earlier in the season, but he gets the snap, drops it, fumbles it on the ground, and is able to pick it up and run around and throw a touchdown pass. He literally didn't get any pressure at all. His offensive line completely protected him long enough for him to drop the ball on the ground, fumble it, pick it back up, and recover it and look around.
yeah,
And it's like, oh my gosh, what a play by Lamar. But it's like his offensive line is so good, his run game is so good, and every time he's throwing touchdowns, it's like wide open receivers.
and I
Um,
think his receivers are very underrated. Everyone talks about when Lamar loses, Lamar has no help, but then when they win, oh, this team is so good.
mhm,
I don't
yeah,
get it. Like, I mean, you see all these guys getting open. They have Mark Andrews. They have Isaiah Likely. Like, this isn't a bad offense by any means. I don't know why people say that Lamar doesn't have a like. I mean, if anything, it's on par with what Josh Allen has, right? I mean, Josh
oh,
Allen has
absolutely
Keon
not.
Coleman, Matt Collins, and Amari Cooper, right? I mean,
And Amari Cooper didn't even play. He's played one game.
yeah. So, I mean, I
No, I think Josh Allen is way more important to his team than Lamar is. Lamar is important to his team, but I mean, we've seen the Ravens make the playoffs without Lamar. Like a few
yeah,
years back when they made
Snoop
it with
Huntley Pro Bowl.
Tyler Huntley.
Or
Yeah,
we had a Snoop Huntley Pro Bowl season. Um,
his backup his backup made the Pro Bowl
hmm
without Josh Allen. What is the Bills record right now without Josh Allen?
0. They're literally a
0-9.
winless team. Yeah, literally winless team. Jo- there is
To be
no
honest,
player
I
more valuable than Josh Allen on the football field. I mean, I, I stand by that.
yeah, I mean,
Last year, this year, I don't think Lamar is more valuable to his team than Josh Allen has been. I mean,
I don't either.
they
I
have
would even say Jared Goff,
Jared Goff is kind
but
of hard
that's like
though
really
because
hard to
like
measure.
I feel like Jared Goff like they have like 42 points and he'll have like 80 passing yards. Like
Yeah,
I don't know what to make of that.
but
You know.
he still has 14 touchdowns. Yeah, I just think it's more like an intangible thing. Like he's just like the leader of that offense,
Yeah.
and
Oh, don't get me wrong.
they're
I
the
like
best.
Jared Goff too. But
Yeah,
I think honestly, unless this is just going to be like, you know, Josh Allen is Drew Brees. He just never gets an MVP, even if he's good. Um, I don't understand why Josh Allen hasn't won at
Mhm.
least one because
because the media just loves Lamar Jackson so much. Like the media has the biggest hard on for Lamar Jackson more than any player I've ever seen in any sport.
yeah, and I think Josh is
Like
kind of hated on too. Like now
Josh is
that
just a guy
Josh
that can
doesn't
beat
have any
Mahomes.
picks, they're actually trashing him for playing too smart, and he's not. He's getting carried by his run game. Like I don't know what they
Hmm.
want him to do. What do you want him to throw 15 picks and just go crazy and have a ton of touchdowns as well? Like
Yeah.
everyone has wanted him to play clean and smart, and now he's doing it, and everyone's like, "Why aren't you playing like Josh Allen?" So
Yeah, it's because they don't like him. He's just a guy. He's lost some homes too many times in the playoffs.
yeah, and how much is that on terrorist? Or the one who's off
Sean
the terrorism
McTerrorist.
watch list? Yes, he's been put
Yeah.
on. He's been taken off the no-fly list. He's on. He can fly now.
But we're still monitoring.
Yeah, he's definitely still being conversations are. He's got his phone lines tapped. Um,
And yeah, we're ready to reopen that investigation.
yeah, the slightest notion that he might choke against the Chiefs, we're gonna be back on him.
Yeah. I'm gonna be watching that playoff game like a hawk because yeah, we're ready to reopen that investigation. I'll just say that. That's all I'll say there.
Let's.
But yeah, let's move on to the next game here.
Okay, so we got Jacksonville taking on Philadelphia. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Philly was favored by 7.5 points, and they won by 5. Philly won 28-23, thanks to some last-minute heroics by Nakobe Dean. Trevor was playing pretty well. His first pick of the game was ETN just bobbled the crap out of the ball, and it just went straight to an Eagles defender. It was not Trevor's fault. As you guys know, I'm a staunch Trevor defender. His second interception at the end of the game, I will say, it's a 50-50. Trevor, why are you throwing on first down a 50-50 ball to Dearness Johnson, who's your third-string running back? Why are you throwing your third-string running back on first down? I get it. You want to take a shot for the end zone and win the game, or try and win, but that was not a great move. But Dearness Johnson also fell down and wasn't able to catch it, which screwed up. But this was a crazy game, just overall. I mean, that's
Yeah, the Eagles 22 zip.
Yeah, the Jags stormed back into this game, thanks to some. I know you call him Trabust Walker, but Travon Walker's fumble recovery off
he's not.
Saquon's fumble, dude. That is what you want to see out of a first-round pick. A defensive end, just like, I mean, that's probably one of the most athletic plays I've seen from a defensive end. Just the way he was able to run, switch the field. Like, he basically reversed the field, turned all the way around, and ran in for, I think it was a 30-yard touchdown. I mean, that is such an impressive play, and the Jags are finally getting to see what Travon Walker was drafted number 1 overall for. I mean, that was crazy impressive by Travon Walker. Speaking of impressive,
Yeah, that was an amazing play.
that Devonta Smith catch, did you see that? The one-hander, toe tap, that was insane.
Yeah, yeah, that was amazing. That was like Garrett Wilson level there.
Yeah,
That almost looked almost exactly like the Garrett Wilson catch with those like that toe tap. I think Garrett Wilson's was a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean
but
the way he
not
was
by
able to
much.
grab
I
the
mean, those,
ball. I
yeah, those were both like catch of the year candidates for sure.
I also think really the reason the Eagles are able to win these games is primarily because of Saquon. Saquon had 27
Oh
carries
yeah.
for 159 yards, and he had a receiving touchdown on top of that with a rushing touchdown. He was basically like half their offense this game. Devonta Smith obviously
Hmm.
showed up too. AJ Brown got hurt. Um, but yeah, I was really impressed with basically my two players of the game, Saquon Barkley and Trevor Lawrence. Maybe I'll give it to Travon Walker because Trevor had two rushing touchdowns, but that fumble recovery by Travon Walker was just so impressive to me. Um, but yeah, that's all I got to say.
Hmm.
Really, just two big plays by two big players on each team was my highlight for that game.
Yeah. I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to this game because the Eagles were up 22-0, and then when the Jags made that comeback, that's kind of when I started paying attention. But it's really just like the Jags just can't put it all together. There's always something, wrong. But like I also just think like just in general, like we can't trust the Eagles. They have, I mean, you literally saw like they have some of the most freakishly athletic and talented players in the whole league. Like Devontae Smith, freak, AJ Brown, who I think he got hurt, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think he had some sort of shoulder maybe. Um,
Yeah, freak. Saquon, freak. Jalen Hurts, freak. Just like freak all over the place on
yeah,
Philly.
offense,
But
defense.
like, yeah, it's just like, how do you, how do you blow a 22-point lead to the Jaguars, you know?
And if it isn't for that, Dearness Johnson stumbling down and N'Kobe Dean picking it off, which good play by N'Kobe Dean, but I mean,
Hmm.
Jags had a minute left and they were in the red zone. I honestly, if it wasn't for that pick, I thought they were going to win that game. Um,
Oh, yeah.
and I mean,
Yeah, no, they were.
they were going life and death with a 2-16, which is not something you want to see out of a quote unquote playoff team. Um, just
Yeah.
honestly, I don't want to say disappointing showing because Saquon looked awesome and all this stuff, but I would say disappointing showing by the
That
defense. Just
backwards hurdle.
yeah, that was crazy. I mean, just everything he did on
Yeah.
that play. He made like two guys miss, and then he just hurdles over a guy. Um, but yeah, I want to say the defense wasn't on point, and maybe that's just Sirianni. Maybe that's Sirianni not having Jonathan Gannon. But
Yeah, Sirianni's a fraud. He's really just toasting on pure talent.
he's not on our. Is he on our most wanted list? I gotta check. Um,
Oh, Sirianni?
should be, but
He's like, he might be number one, or at
yeah,
least he was.
I think with Dennis Allen
Yeah, I'm rewatching that end of the gameplay when he like threw uh, that
interception.
like jump ball to, he definitely airmailed that ball. And I'm watching. I watched it like 5 times just now. He definitely like airmailed that pass, threw it over Dearness Johnson's head
Oh,
right
I
to the
thought he
defender.
stumbled. Okay, maybe I'm just misremembering.
If you, it didn't really look like Trevor was able to set his feet very well on that one. Like he looked like he was kind of like backpedaling, and he didn't throw it off his back foot, but he didn't really get a good platform. It kind of looked awkward on a release, and probably didn't get a lot of touch on it. But yeah, I mean, why are we throwing jump balls
To Dearness Johnson. Yeah.
on first down?
No, I was not a
I
big
know you
fan of that
had pressure
play.
in his face. Yeah, he had pressure in his face, so it's like hard to blame him, But you don't like you can just live to fight another day, if your offensive line doesn't have it there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I was not a fan of
yeah,
that.
Jags absolutely could have won that game.
They're
And
probably
then
a very good. Like they're better than the record. I will 100% say that. They played the Packers close. Packers only won because of a last second field goal. Um, I mean, they're playing these good teams very close. I wouldn't be surprised if they play the Vikings close next week with how Darnold's been looking.
Yeah, I just cannot wait for Detroit to just pulverize Philly in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, I,
Detroit's going to beat them by like 30.
I mean, we saw the what the Eagles looked like last year when they were quote unquote good, and the Buccaneers smoked them in the playoffs. This year they're playing like mid. I don't see
Eh,
any Eagles fans. You know.
I don't know if I'd say they're mid, but I mean, they've won four straight games. They destroyed Cincy,
Yeah, that is true.
but
That
there's
game
just
was
like,
just so weird to me.
I don't know. It just feels like the Eagles are like and yeah, they're 6-2. They had that loss to Atlanta that they basically had won. You know, they choked that game away. You remember that game in week 2 against Atlanta?
Yeah, where Saquon dropped it on third down and then they punted or whatever.
Yeah, they had no business losing that game.
Yeah, that was
Um,
just a Kirk Cousins
they
primetime magic.
they
Primetime Kirk.
they went primetime Kirk. He's unstoppable.
He's actually
They
good.
went, they went on the road and beat the Bengals by 20, and the Bengals have a pretty awful defense. But um, so like Philly is a good team, but I don't know. There's just something. I just don't trust Sirianni. I just feel like Sirianni is a fraud when it all comes down to it.
Yeah. Well, I just know last year they looked good too at the beginning, and then they just started falling apart. So I don't know if that's going to happen again.
Yeah,
But they're not a
it
team I can
pisses me off.
trust. Even with Saquon Barkley playing like he is, I mean, Saquon Barkley had 159 points or 59 yards, and they only won by 5, and they very well could have lost this game. So, I mean,
Mhm.
this team plays, you know, they're not blowing out these teams that they should be blowing out. Like if you want to be looked at as a playoff team, you got to blow out the Jags, and I like the Jags, but like, they're 2-6.
They're just not a trustworthy
Yeah,
team. They're just not a trustworthy team. The
nope,
Eagles. You can't trust them with the 22-point lead at home against a 2-6 team.
no, and
You can't. They blew the game,
yeah,
or they almost blew the game.
I don't think the Eagles are going to go very far in the playoffs this year if they even win a playoff game. I mean, honestly, if the Bucks make the playoffs, I think the Bucks might just have their number because they smoked them earlier this year as well.
Yeah, but that was before like 80% of their starters got injured.
Yeah, very true. Um, you want to move on?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Which one's next?
We got Arizona and Chicago. I'm just going to say one thing. I just liked that Amari DiMercato rushing touchdown right at the end of the first half. I'm going to let
Oh,
you
you
just
liked
talk
it?
about Matt Eberflus and your most wanted list because I know you have a lot to say about this game. I was going to pick Chicago here. I thought their defense was going to do enough, but yeah, that's all I got to say.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I'm a Bears fan, and Matty Eberflus is now number one on the most wanted list. He's now our number one target, at least my number one target for coaches who need to be fired or people who need to be relieved of their duties in the NFL. The Bears are 4-0 at home, 0-4 on the road. I think they said something like Matt Eberflus is like 0-17 in road games that take place on a Sunday.
Oh
Like
yes,
so
yeah.
anything but like Monday,
That is so
anything but like the
bad.
Thursday night, Monday night. He has never won a road game on an NFL Sunday.
I can't
So
believe that.
knowing that,
18 games, no wins.
look, Eberflus, like, I'm sorry, I just and I hate it because listen, defense is very important in the NFL. In fact, defense is kind of like we talked about like how the pendulum swings in the NFL between defense and offense, right? Like sometimes, like probably late 2010s, 2020, maybe 2021, like offenses were dominant,
Yeah.
right? And it was like deep. Now, after that Bucks Chiefs game, in the 2020 season where they kind of retooled all the defenses, it's kind of more defensively driven. That's why I mean there's not really a lot of games, a lot of low scoring games now because defenses are kind of taking over, but still at the same time, the most important position on the field is the quarterback. And I just don't think you can have a defensive coach when you have a quarterback like Caleb Williams,
Yeah.
He or if you do like Dan Quinn, then you need to have at least a good offensive coordinator who you can trust. And Shane Waldron is not a good offensive coordinator. You
Nope.
could have had Cliff Kingsbury, but I mean that touchdown you were talking about with DeMercado, where that was the last play of the half.
Yeah. I know they were running
You're
pretty
down
good defense, right?
14-9.
Yeah.
To allow that play to happen is just unacceptable. That is so bad. That is atrocious. There's no reason. I mean, there was 12 seconds left. They run. They were like, I don't even know what they were trying to do right there.
Yeah.
But he breaks a tackle, and your safeties can't get to him. He scores a touchdown. I mean, they were just hoping to get into field goal position there, and they get a touchdown out of it. That's like, it's just ridiculous, dude. Shane Waldron is. There's no evidence. What did Shane Waldron do to deserve this job? Look, Eberflus got a new haircut, grew a beard. He looks cool. He's a cool guy. All right. Sorry, I'm out. I'm out on the guy. He's If the Bears do ever win a Super Bowl with Caleb Williams as their quarterback, I can tell you for 100% fact Matt Eberflus will not be the head coach of that team. He's not a Super Bowl coach, but this is just classic Bears. They hire some guy that's cheap that nobody's ever heard of. First time they love hiring the first time head coaches. Other than when they hired John Fox, but they only hired John Fox because nobody else wanted him, and he was considered like washed up. They could have hired Bruce Arians a few years ago. They could have hired, and Doug Peterson hasn't done so well in Jacksonville, but I want them to hire Doug Peterson. They don't ever hire like the big name guy. They'll always just try to hire the cheap guy because our ownership group is cheap and they're not independently wealthy. Um, yeah, Eberflus. So I mean, like first of all, Caleb Williams also got hurt in this game
Yeah. Right at the end too, right?
when they were down 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you're down 20 points and you let your starting quarterback Eberflus just, especially when you combine it with like last week against Washington and what happened there.
Yeah. Yeah. That.
It's just gone for. I think he's lost the team. It feels like, and you better hire. I mean, God, I just don't want Caleb Williams to turn into Trevor Lawrence, dude. Because bad franchises ruin quarterbacks. They really do. Once you lose that confidence, you never get it back. I mean, like Bryce Young's ruined. Trey Lance is ruined. Although maybe those guys never were going to be good no matter what. But the Bears tried to ruin Justin.
Yeah.
And this is the talent goes. The Bears been good. And I mean, I'd love to say that Eberflus is the whole problem, but he's not. It's the ownership group, and they're pretty much cooked until the McCaskey sell the team.
Yeah.
Fortunately,
And the Bears ain't gonna fire Eberflus because they have that whole tradition. We
that's
never.
really all I got to say. It's the Bears.
Yeah. I mean, okay, hold on. Did you hear me? I think my
Yeah,
mic. I think,
they're just.
okay, there we go.
Ugh.
There we go. My mic was lagging. I mean, the Bears will never fire any coach in season because they have that whole tradition. So Eberflus is going to
No.
stay. um, which
I'm
sucks.
sick of the. I'm sick of the. Here's the thing. You got the McCaskey family that owns the Bears because Virginia McCaskey, who is 101 years old, her dad was George Halas, the founder of the Chicago Bears, and actually one of the founders of the NFL. The Bears are the oldest team or the second oldest team. It's like the Bears and the Packers are the oldest teams in the league.
Yeah,
And, you know, George Halas founded the franchise in 1920 or whatever it was and paid like $200 for the team and just passed it down to his daughter when he died, I think in like 1981 or whatever. And she's been, the owner ever since then. But the thing about the NFL is that as as the years have passed and the NFL has become more and more of a business, you get so many more of these teams that are owned by like real businessmen and people are like sharp killers in the business world. You know what I mean? Like the Walton family now owns the Denver Broncos.
yeah,
I mean, that's Walmart. You know, you have Walmart, which is one of the most successful corporations on planet Earth, in charge of the Denver Broncos. They're going to improve, right? I mean, that's these people know how to run a business, right? And if they don't know how to run an NFL football team, then you're going to just entrust it. Hopefully your owner is smart enough to trust the franchise to somebody that does know what they're doing, right? Which is what you see with Carolina, right? Because I'm talking about all these like cutthroat businessmen that buy these NFL teams, and they just mop the floor with all these like mom and pop teams, like for example the Bears, uh, the Cowboys, which is like Jerry Jones and his son running the whole team. I mean, come on, you're not a serious franchise at that point. But
yeah,
then you got, you run into the other thing where the Panthers are owned by a Wall Street guy, David Tepper, who clearly is a shark and a killer in the business world, but he's also an idiot, or not an idiot, but he's also a guy that just has too much of an ego, and he's like, oh, I could do this. NFL, yeah, I
yeah,
could mop the floor with these guys, and he clearly doesn't know what he's doing. Whereas you have like other owners, like I guess the Ravens owner is like a very like hands-off guy. Like he lives down in Florida, and he's like, I'm just gonna hire the best people and trust the franchise to them and let them do their thing and not bother. Right. Whereas David Tepper meddles in the thing. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, overall, the NFL is a multi-billion-dollar business, and a lot of these franchises are owned by like cutthroat businessmen. And I'm sorry, when your owner is a 100-year-old lady whose only qualification for owning the team is that her dad founded the team over 100 years ago,
uh huh.
you just can't compete. You just cannot compete with these other franchises that are owned by like highly successful businessmen, right?
No,
And
it's a recent development with this. Like you were saying.
it is like the Bills are owned by the Pagula family. Um, I know that they also own the Buffalo Sabres. They come from oil money, right? So like these are independently wealthy business people, right? And there are other instances of mom and pop shop operations like the Steelers. They've been owned by the Rooney family for a really long time. But
Yeah.
like you look at Washington, Washington had that moron as the owner, and like Dan Quinn made a lot of money. I think in like the tech sector back in the '90s. Like I think he was like a .com billionaire. Um,
Snyder.
bought the team,
Yeah.
yeah. But they were just bought by Josh Harris, who I want to just list him as a businessman. Um,
Shady guy again. Shady
right,
businessman.
yeah.
No.
But like he has an MBA from Harvard Business School. Um, what is Apollo? Apollo? Okay, it's a private equity firm. So like clearly this guy is in you know whatever you want to think about private equity. This guy's highly educated, clearly a highly successful businessman,
Yeah.
and I mean he's just gonna mop the floor with you.
Yeah.
And he's gonna, if anything else, it's because they have so much more money
Money. Yeah, I was about to
available.
say.
Because like people think like because the NFL is a salary cap league, that every team is operating with the same amount of money, right? Like you only have whatever the salary cap is to spend on your team. It's just not true because the I and I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. The coaches' salaries come out of the owner's pocket, right?
Uh,
And you have to have money to float, for these. You actually have to have like money on the book or in the
in your
account to
bank
make these
account,
big
yeah.
signings, right? Because of these, big free agent signings and all these signing bonuses that these guys get. And yeah, the Bears just don't. They're not like they don't have liquid assets on hand because all their money is tied up in the Bears.
Yeah.
And it's like when you have these people that are only rich because they inherited a team, they just can't compete. They can't compete with these guys who are independently wealthy. A Phillies owner, Jeffrey Lurie, he's independently wealthy as well. Um, you just can't win with a mom and pop operation anymore. You just can't. It's just not how it works anymore. And yeah, I just really have to say the Bears just please Jeff Bezos, please buy the Bears.
Jeff Bezos,
That's all I
please
have to
save
say. Jeff Bezos, please save us.
us. um,
Please buy the Bears.
yeah, I basically said all I had to say. So do you want to move on to Detroit, Green Bay?
Yeah,
This one will be
yeah,
pretty quick.
yeah.
Detroit was favored by 3.5 points in Green Bay. This was at Lambeau. Detroit won by
Hmm.
10, 24-14. This game really
Yeah.
wasn't close up until the fourth quarter when they got a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to make it look like they scored 2 touchdowns. They had 2 field goals and
Hmm.
1 touchdown with the 2-point conversion. That's why it's 24-14. Green
Yeah.
Bay's offense was not good. Josh Jacobs did decent, but I mean, obviously wasn't enough. Detroit just styled on him for the most part. They didn't need to do a ton, and they didn't. Amon-Ra had a crazy headstand celebration after he had a touchdown. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
The week of the headstand.
the Detroit Lions are legit. I mean, that's all I really have to say about the Lions because what more has to be said? They have a great rushing attack, Jahmyr Gibbs and Monty, and they have a great passing attack that they barely even need to use because of how good their rushing attack is. Um, yeah, other than that,
Hmm.
Packers,
Yeah.
what do I got to say? Jaden Reed at 113 yards, Josh Jacobs at 95 rushing yards. He averaged 7 yards a carry against the Lions, which is pretty crazy. 7.3. But Packers, Jordan Love is looking less and less legit, quote unquote, as he kind of comes, as the season goes on. He's looking less and less like an elite quarterback to me, and more like a
I'm
good
so glad.
quarterback. I don't think he's bad by any means. I just don't think like people were putting him in that Aaron Rodgers tier, a little too
Hmm.
soon. I think.
Yeah, he leads the league in picks in only 7 games.
Yeah, and honestly, last week I thought Trevor outplayed him. If you just go stat for stat, I think Trevor played a better game, and they just lost because the Jags defense is not as good as the Packers defense. Um,
Yeah. And yeah, keep going. Sorry.
no, that's really all I have to say. I think the Packers they can be a playoff team. Definitely not going to win the division though against the Lions. I don't think there's very few teams I think that beat the Lions. I mean, the only team that freaking beat the Lions this year is the healthy Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers are not going to
And
get
that team
healthy.
doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that team is not even close
They're
to
gone.
healthy.
They're
Um,
not out there anymore.
so I don't see anybody challenging the Lions besides the Niners and maybe the Vikings in the NFC. Um, I mean, off the top of my head, those are the only 2 teams I think that could beat them, just because we've seen the Niners beat them, and the Vikings have a
Yeah.
great defense as well. Obviously, Darnold kind of puts a cap on their ceiling, and quarterback for quarterback, Jared Goff is I think 5 times better than Darnold is. No offense to Darnold,
Yeah.
but yeah, the Lions look unstoppable right now. They're juggernauts. I mean, if it's a Lions Ravens Super Bowl, I go with the Lions here. I would feel a lot better if they still had Hutchinson coming off the edge because when they had Hutch, they were the number one run stopping defense in the NFL. Um,
Yeah.
that's all. Sorry, I kind of ate up a bunch of time after I said I had nothing more to say.
No, you're good. Yeah, look, I was kind of skeptical of the Lions just because I don't know. I really just because of that game where they got absolutely destroyed by the Ravens last year. But I'm a full believer. Like I thought the Lions were actually going to lose this game, but I actually am a full believer in the Lions now. I mean, they're just better than the Packers. They went into Lambeau in the rain and won that game. They're just a better. They are the best team in the NFC for sure. I
Yeah,
don't think San Fran isn't really San Fran anymore. I just think the injuries
no,
are starting to pile up. I guess McCaffrey's supposed to be coming back, but I don't. Stanford, if the season ended today, which I know a lot of people, it's like a silly thing, if the season ended today, but San Fran is the 11th seed in the NFC. San Fran is not making the playoffs currently. Um, although, again,
they're gonna get McCaffrey.
all they have to do is chase down the Cardinals. But will McCaffrey even be? I mean, he's missed 9. He might come back and for the 10th game of the year with the Achilles of a 78-year-old man. I don't know. I don't know, but really, all they have to do is catch the Cardinals. But I don't. I mean, what I want is Lions Bills Super Bowl.
That would be awesome.
That would be the ultimate. Dude, it's just I was so worried about the Aiton Hutchinson entry, because I was like, oh, well, Hutchinson is a Defensive Player of the Year guy, and not having him, you're kind of screwed. But I think if there's any coach in the league that can kind of power through that and get his guys to step up and just get the absolute most out of his team, it's Dan Campbell,
Uh-huh.
just in terms of like motivating his guys. Like, will that injury turn out to screw them over? Maybe. I don't know. But their offense is like so they have the best offense in the league right now, other than maybe the Commanders, but I don't know. I think the Lions might be more efficient offensively, and I also think that I would definitely trust the Lions rushing attack more than I would trust Washington's,
Yeah,
like Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery versus Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. Give me what the Lions have all day.
agreed. And I think honestly, just the experience of Jared Goff. Jared Goff's been to a Super Bowl. Um,
Yeah.
and I think their defense is better even with that Hutchinson injury. Although Dan Quinn is improving
Yeah.
Commanders' defense, I think there's still kind of a big question mark. Their whole run D, and their pass D is not that great either. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the Lions have them in every matchup, I'd say, on offense versus their defense. Um,
hmm
so there's only one team that I can really think would give that I hadn't thought of before, and it's the next matchup we'll go into. So I'm not going to talk about them until we go to the next matchup. But there's another team in the NFC that I actually think might be able to beat the Lions because he played them close in the playoffs last year. If you're ready to move on, we can go to the next game, but don't want to.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so LA Rams travel to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. They were favored. The Rams were favored by 1.5 points. They won in overtime, 26-20. This is the team I'm talking about, by the way. The Rams, I think, are the team, the dark horse of the NFC, and they've been getting hot now that they got Cooper Kupp and Puka back. Obviously, Puka decided to try out for the UFC debut, tried to knock the dude out in the first quarter. And
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
got
not
ejected, but they don't need him. They got Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is doing everything. Obviously, it was.
They got Demarcus
I was about to
Robinson,
say,
dude.
Demarcus Robinson caught the game-winning touchdown in overtime, one-handed grab while he's going to the end zone. That was awesome. And on defense, they have Jared Verse, who is he is my lock for defensive rookie of the year. He just does everything they need him to do. He's a great player. Probably the best pickup on defense in the draft, I think. I can't think of a better one off the top of my head right now. So I got him locked in as my defensive rookie of the year. Going over to Seattle, who lost this game, Jackson Smith and Jigba all the truthers out there who have been saying this guy can be a star wide receiver, here
AKA me.
here it was. This was awesome. Two touchdowns for him, one right towards the end of the game to tie it, to bring it to overtime. Um, this was
180 yards.
this was awesome. I started him in fantasy. Uh,
Same.
yeah, this was just a great game for. I mean, just for offense, just watching offense, and we got to see the Rams defense step up a bit and make some plays. I have more faith in the Rams to go to the playoffs than I do Geno Smith and the Seahawks, because Geno just seems to make mistakes when the time, when the time is needed for Geno to step up. He just seems to make a mistake. And when you need Stafford, he does what he did in overtime, and he gets you a crazy play.
Yeah.
I mean, he is by far one of the most clutch quarterbacks in the NFL, by far.
Without a doubt.
And they played the Lions very, very close in their playoff game last year.
They did.
So
And earlier in the season, in week
that
one.
too, that game went to overtime as well. They probably, I mean, besides the Bucks beating them, that was probably one of their closest games. The Lions. So I really think if the Rams can continue winning, which, I mean, they beat the Minnesota Vikings 2 weeks ago. Now they beat the Seahawks. They're 4-4. They're chasing the Cardinals. Just got to get some wins going, and they'll be in the playoffs. I'm very impressed with this win in overtime for the Rams.
Yeah. On the road. I mean, listen, like the Seahawks could have won this game. Obviously, it went to overtime. They could have won, but they had 424 yards of offense to 366 for the Rams. They averaged more yards per play, 5.7 to 5.4. They had more yards. I mean, they held the Rams to 68 rushing yards, 2.8 yards a carry. The difference is, the pick six.
Yeah.
Threw 3 interceptions. You had 3 turnovers for the Rams, 1. You had 12 penalties for 95 yards. Just the mental mistake, lack of discipline. But yeah, just an amazing performance by JSN.
That was, great.
Yeah,
game
the
for him.
Rams. I would agree with you that the Rams are probably, and I know they're not in first place in their division. Arizona is, but it's Arizona's 5-4. The Rams and Niners are 4-4, and Seattle 4-5. So really, anybody could win that division.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just think about in the NFC, who do you trust? In terms of quarterbacks, obviously I trust Goff. Jaden Daniels, I trust him, but he's young. Atlanta Falcons, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray, kind of jury's out. Sam Darnold, very limited ceiling there. Jalen Hurts, I kind of trust him, but I also don't really trust Sirianni. Jordan Love, don't really trust him in the playoffs that much. And you just look at like a guy like Matthew Stafford, they're not in the playoffs, but pretty much I would say he's the best quarterback in the NFC. It's him, Goff, Jaden Daniels, Kirk Cousins. Like the Rams are going to be there, I think, at the end, and I don't think they can go into Detroit and win, but I think they'll be in the mix for sure. I think they're going to make a deep playoff run, the Rams.
Yeah, I don't think many teams can go into Detroit and win in the playoffs, but I
No.
like the Rams' chances just a little bit more. I think McVay, I wouldn't say he's underrated, but in my opinion, he's probably one of the best coaches in the NFL, maybe the best, depending on who you ask. I mean,
Yeah.
there are 4 wins this year. I mean, they beat the 49ers. Like, that game when their whole team was injured, they beat the 49ers. They obviously beat the Vikings on Monday night with getting Cooper Kupp and Puka back for the first time.
It was Thursday night, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Thursday night game. And then they had, like, the win over the Raiders, which was close. But, you got to put the asterisk on that they basically were just playing their hospital offense, missing their top 2 guys. But the Rams, I mean, dude, they play the Dolphins, the Patriots, the Eagles, the Saints. their next 4 games,
Ooh.
I think they could seriously go 4-0.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're getting healthier. Yeah.
So, and I mean, then
And
they,
Sean McVay is, correct me if I'm wrong, but Sean McVay is the only coach in the NFC to win a Super Bowl with the team he's on. I know Mike McCarthy has won a Super Bowl, but that was with
with the
Green Bay
Packers,
15 years
yeah.
ago. There's no other coach in the NFC that's won a Super Bowl with the team he's coaching currently.
Yeah, and I mean Todd Bowles technically, but he was the defensive coordinator, not the
Yeah, he
not
wasn't the head coach.
Yeah, so no, yeah, I think you're right. I mean,
Yep. Yeah, I am.
the N-
I,
yeah
I
the
just I'm looking
NFC
at it right now.
the NFC is besides the Lions. Really, I feel like it's a very open playoff picture, because
Yeah.
the Commanders they are very good, but I don't see them making a very deep postseason run. I see them having a really tough game against, let's say, the Vikings or something and losing, but
Yeah.
I don't see them
Yeah,
making the
that's
Super
well.
Bowl this year.
Yeah, no, not with a rookie quarterback.
And I would say, obviously, we're going to probably see the Vikings, the Commanders, the Lions, and the Falcons. Those are going to be the top 4 seeds if everything plays out how it's been playing out, which
Yeah.
I think it will. And
No, it wouldn't be the Vikings, Lions, and Commanders. It would be
oh yeah, no,
it would be the
not that,
Lions,
yeah.
Commanders, Falcons, and probably the Rams. But right now
yeah.
it's the Cardinals.
I'm thinking college football, just by record.
Yeah.
But yeah, going with like the Rams, if they win out the division and they don't have to play a wild card game, if they are a higher seeded team, I mean, like they could easily make it to the NFC Championship game.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
They get
No
the
doubt
right
they could.
matchups.
I wouldn't pick against them. I would pick them to beat. I'd pick them to beat the Vikings. I'd pick them to beat the Eagles.
I think they could beat the Falcons
Well,
too.
actually,
I mean,
yeah, I think they could. Yeah, if you could, because the Falcons are like what are they, like the worst pass defense in the history of football,
I didn't know
or
that.
not pass defense? No, not pass defense. They have 9 sacks on the season,
Oh,
so
pass
they're
rush.
dead last
Yes,
in the
yeah.
league in sacks. Pass rush. That's what I meant. Yeah.
If you give Stafford time to throw, I mean, he can beat almost any team. Like if you just let him pick
Yeah,
a team
exactly.
apart, there's nothing you can do to stop Stafford at that point. The only way you win is you put the pressure on Stafford.
Put the pressure on Stafford. Yep. That guy knew it.
The GOAT. All the way.
The GOAT.
All the way
The
back
GOAT
then.
knew it. All the way back in actually that game we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
The Bears-Lions game from 2012.
We got
Put
one.
the pressure on Stafford.
We got one more game. You want to get to it really quick? This one should be quick,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah,
Indianapolis traveled
yeah.
to Minnesota. Minnesota was favored by 5.5 points, and Minnie won 21-13. So they covered. I don't really have much to say about this game. You said it earlier when we were talking before the video. This game was a big mid-off.
It was a mid-off.
Darnold threw early picks and recovered late. Jefferson had a great game, 137 yards, I think, off the top of my head. I'm not looking at the box score. But, I mean, we just saw kind of Sam Darnold kind of get his head out of his ass in that second half and, bring the team back to win. I mean, he threw 3 touchdowns, and I feel like all
2
the
picks.
Yeah, the picks were earlier, and then it was
No, he had one. He had one in the second half. It was like right after Flacco threw a pick.
Oh yeah.
And Darnold threw a pick.
That's true.
It was a mid-off.
Yeah, and I mean the Colts literally the only touchdown they scored was a fumble return, so wasn't a great offensive showing for the Indianapolis Colts. So that's all I really have to say. Just not a great game.
Yeah. Yeah, the Colts had 19 carries for 68 yards rushing. They can't run the ball very well. Joe Flacco had 179-yard passing, no touchdowns, one pick. They were like, oh well, Joe Flacco gives us the best chance to win over Anthony Richardson, but like, what does that even mean? Like, win what? The
Yeah.
division? I don't think they're going to win the division.
Nope.
They're
And
4-5. I mean, look, their pass rush is pretty good. They stacked Darnold 4 times, and they were kind of getting into space. But I don't know. The Colts just like they feel like a decent roster, but not a Super Bowl roster. I mean, maybe if you
well,
put, yeah, it was just a mid off, dude. And I wish the Vikings would have lost because they're in the NFC North, but they didn't. And yeah, it was a very boring Sunday night football game. That's really
yeah,
really all I have to say.
not a barn burner. We
Yeah.
cannot give you our reactions for this Monday night game because it is currently
You know what?
going on.
Hold on, time out. I will. I will give you my pre-reaction.
Okay.
The game will be a one-score game in the fourth quarter, and Baker Mayfield will be leading the Bucs down the field, and somebody, whether it be Baker Mayfield or somebody on the Bucs, will just completely piss down their leg and give the game away, and then the Chiefs will be driving to like retake the lead or something like that, and then they'll fail on the third down. A flag will come in, and the Chiefs will win the game, something like 27-23 or 27-24.
That is going to be all for the video, guys. Make sure you drop a like, hit the subscribe button, and click the bell to get notifications on all the videos coming out. We're going to get the Week 10 predictions out this week as well. We're going to get on track. Thank you for watching. Have a good one, everybody.